In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro Moros praised the closure of the fourth round of negotiations between the Colombian government and the ELN. In Spain, heavy rains and flooding have left 3 dead and at least 3 others missing last weekend. The African Climate Summit in Kenya moves ahead, intending to forge a common position ahead of upcoming global conferences and discuss how to finance the continent's environmental priorities. Hello from the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. This is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. On Monday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Dominican Republic, Roberto Álvarez Gil, arrived in Cuba to complete an official visit. So far, the Dominican Foreign Minister has held official talks with the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Josefina Vidal, and the Cuban President, Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez. During the talks, the Cuban authorities expressed their respect and traditional ties of friendship with the Dominican Republic and their wish to continue working for tightening bilateral commercial and cultural ties. Next, Álvarez Gil will meet with Deputy Prime Minister Ricardo Cabrizas and other Cuban authorities. In addition, according to his visit program and the schedule, on Tuesday he will hold a round of dialogues to review and strengthen political matters and migratory issues as well. In Panama, the Single Union of Construction Workers and other social organizations marched nationwide against the concession of the mining contract. The demonstrators closed several of the main roads in the capital city of Panama. The demonstrations reject the approval of the bill number 1043, that establishes the contract between the Panamanian state and the mining company Panama. According to leaders, the mobilizations seek to show their dissatisfaction with the high cost of living, demand decent wages, and reject the parametric reforms in the Social Security Fund. Let's move on to other topics. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro Moros praised the closure of the fourth round of negotiations between the Colombian government and the ELN. In this way, Maduro ratified his country's willingness to contribute to peace in the neighboring country. The Venezuelan president reaffirmed that peace in Colombia is urgent and cannot be postponed in order to achieve the project of the Colombian counterpart, Gustavo Petro. He also congratulated both delegations and expressed his satisfaction for having achieved progress in terms of humanitarian dynamics and the reduction of the armed conflict. And during the closure of the fourth round of peace talks, the head of the ELN delegation, Paulo Beltrán, stated that the changes taking place in Colombia are aimed at democratizing the country.
These are changes towards a democratization of the country. Aware of this moment, agreements have been made in this year of work and especially in this fourth cycle. But unfortunately, as Roberto del Ebono said now, in this first month of the ceasefire, we have to state that the ceasefire has been under fire. In what sense? There has been a very intense media campaign by the big media, by the big communication companies, trying to hinder this process. There have also been severe attacks on the communities.
In Venezuela, the head of the Colombian government delegation, Ori Patiño, stressed that the dialogues bring them closer to peace.
In this fourth cycle, which is the third one, we have been 3 times in Caracas. In the first cycle, which took place in a hotel on the heights of the Guaraíra Répano, the second was an emergency meeting we had here in Caracas, and the third meeting is this one. In this fourth cycle, we've reached some agreements that bring us much closer to the peace we all want.
And while the economic war against Venezuela harmed many households, this new scenario made retired chemistry teacher Rosa rethink her possibilities and the talents. She took academia knowledge and her crafting skills and turned her apartment into a laboratory, a factory, and a family enterprise venue at the same time. Today, her cleaning products compete in local markets. Let's know more about her story, thanks to the following material by our colleagues Adriana Sibori and Marcos da Silva. Enjoy.
Through our social networks, we received a message from a retired teacher.
I invite you to learn about our products, how we make them and how we produce them.
Among so many buildings, Rosa guides us to her property. In a 72 square meters apartment, she installed a handicraft factory with all the corresponding permits.
In 2016, with the economic war, there were so many queues to get flour, butter, milk, all those things. It was horrible, so I told my husband at that time, let's produce cleaning products because we are getting hit.
They started with just personal hygiene products. In 7 years, they established a whole workshop. Together with her niece, they prepared the orders. The accuracy in the combination of ingredients is the key to a perfect elaboration. The coconut oil for toilet soap. Angie already knew the business, but joined her aunt's enterprise.
As the demand for the product increased, she needed more help, more hands on deck. So here I am to support her in packaging part and soap production. We share the tasks, we collaborate well, and we are not fearful of the problems that may arise. We always look for a way to turn things around and keep on going.
The pandemic opened a new world. They collaborated with the community, they taught, they sterilized environments. Chlorine and disinfectants were in those years, and still are, some of their star products.
I am chemistry teacher, so this is easy for me to elaborate all these things. And knowledge is not for oneself. You have to share it with everyone you can. Because knowledge has to be transmitted. We Venezuelans, in spite of our weaknesses and difficulties, we always grow.
And Yulimar's trademark seems to keep on growing. The brand of the cleaning artisan can be found in every nearby store.
Marcos da Silva y Adriana Sibori, TeleSUR, Caracas.
You can find more episodes of our series Venezuela on the Move in YouTube and other platforms. Now, let's take a short break. But remember, you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find the news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. 3 dead and at least 3 missing is the partial toll of the floods registered in Spain last weekend. Cádiz, Segovia, and Tarragona are the provinces that registered the highest accumulation of rainfall on Sunday. The downpours killed 3 people. Police said a young man died after getting trapped in a lift that filled up with water. The body of another man, aged 50, was found in a river near the town of Camarena, and a third man died inside a flooded vehicle. The civil guard is currently searching for the 3 missing persons, 2 of them in the province of Madrid. So far, the general forecast forecast of the state weather agency assures that cloudy skies and precipitations will continue in most of the peninsula until after midnight. Scientists warn that extreme weather such as heat waves and storms is becoming more frequent and more intense as a result of climate change caused by the burning of fossil fuels. In Brazil, at least 4 people died after the passage of a tropical cyclone in the south of the country. According to the authorities, more than 300 citizens were evacuated due to rains, floods and landslides in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. Officials declared a red alert in at least 21 municipalities of the region. In this context, meteorological reports state that the cyclone will reach the states of Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro and Minas Gerais, where a yellow alert remains in effect due to the rains and the damage they may cause in those areas. On Monday, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin met in Russia's coastal city of Sochi. Erdogan paid a one-day working visit to Sochi, as confirmed by the Turkish office, with the reactivation of the agreement of the Black Sea grain deal as the main topic of the meeting. Additionally, the Turkish and the Russian head of state discussed other issues of the regional and global agenda, including bilateral trade, the conflict in Ukraine, and the tensions on the African continent. During a joint press conference, the Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Moscow is just weeks away from supplying free grain to 6 African countries after scrapping a deal allowing Ukrainian food exports through the Black Sea, and insisted his nation is willing to restart the Black Sea grain deal if Moscow's demands were met, primarily the removal of sanctions. Russia withdrew from the deal on July 17th due to the non-compliance of the West. And we stay in Russia. During a meeting on energy issues in Sochi, the President, Vladimir Putin, said his nation's energy sector is developing successfully despite illegal and endless sanctions against it. Putin also said that the Eurasian country was considering speeding up the construction of the Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline, which will deliver gas to China via Mongolia, as well as accelerating the Far Eastern route to supply gas to China. And thousands of people mobilized in Skopje, the capital of Northern Macedonia, in protest against a corruption case linked to the oncology drugs. The scandal erupted following a series of media reports alleging that staff at the oncology hospital were reselling expensive drugs on the black market. Among the protesters were several people who said their relatives had died after receiving placebos instead of proper chemotherapy because the drugs had been stolen. Meanwhile, last Friday, police raided the hospital and the homes of the 2 staff members, confiscating documents, computers and data drivers. However, no arrests were made and no charges have been filed. The 43rd Summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations is underway in Indonesia, in the city of Jakarta. During his opening speech, the Indonesian President Joko Widodo called for the unity of the regional bloc and stressed its neutrality in the midst of tensions between great powers. The member countries hold a plenary session while the event continues with the inaugural Asian Indo-Pacific Forum in the evening. The Asian leaders are expected to review the implementation of a 5-point consensus signed in 2021 to seek a peaceful solution to the conflict in Myanmar. The group's leaders will also focus on strengthening regional integration and expanding collaboration in key areas such as the digital and green economies. ASEAN gathers Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. TeleSUR English launches its own videos on demand site for you to go and revisit our interviews, the top stories, the special broadcastings, and more. Just go to the top left corner in our website homepage and click on the video option to access our VOD platform. And now we will have a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The African Climate Summit in Kenya moves ahead intending to forge a common position ahead of upcoming global conferences and discuss how to finance the continent's environmental priorities. At the start of the summit, the President of Kenya, William Ruto, called for all African states to unite to fight the climate crisis, which he described as the greatest challenge to the existence of all living beings. The event, convened by the African Union, will take place in Nairobi until the 6th of September. More than 20 heads of state and government, as well as leaders of regional and international organizations, are expected to participate. At the end of the summit, the adoption of the so-called Nairobi Declaration, which seeks to articulate a common African position for different global fora, is foreseen. During his speech, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for making Africa a renewable energy superpower.
With adequate access to financial resources at reasonable cost and technological support, renewables could dramatically boost economies, grow new industries, create jobs, and drive development, including by reaching the over 600 million Africans living without access to power. Renewable energy could be the African miracle, but we must make it happen. We must all work together for Africa to become a renewable energy superpower.
On Monday, the head of the International Energy Agency urged the United States and China to set aside their differences and align on climate change. Speaking at the African Climate Summit in Nairobi, Fatih Birol said that international rifts are becoming more and more pronounced. Birol also said that the world is currently moving too slowly to meet the Paris Agreement goals to limit global warming. The official called on the U.S. and China, the world's two biggest emitters, to come together at the COP28 climate talks in Dubai this year and leave aside their geopolitical and economic tensions to seek joint or at least common positions on key issues.
I see that the colors of geopolitical fracturing becoming more and more pronounced. And when I look at the future of energy and climate, if I see that the best and most optimistic trend is the clean energy set to dominate the game, a big shadow, casting shadow, is the geopolitical tensions among the countries. To reach those targets, international collaboration is key, and in the context of geopolitical fracturing, to have international collaboration between the major players will be much more challenging.
In Zimbabwe, President Emerson Mnangagwa was on Monday sworn in for a second term after being declared the winner of last month's disputed election, as he promised to lift millions out of poverty. Zimbabweans went to polls on August 23rd to elect a new president, parliamentarians and local council members, but the main opposition party described the results as a gigantic fraud. In his speech after being sworn in, Mnangagwa pleaded for unity in the aftermath of the polls, promising to revive the ailing economy. Several African leaders, including South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Mozambique leader Philippe Nyusi, and the Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, attended the swearing-in ceremony. Mnangagwa's second term comes amid unrelenting economic challenges, with the SIM dollar having plunged 80% since the start of the year, while international funding remains frozen.
Under my leadership and the new ZANU-PF government, democracy, good governance, the rule of law, and the politics of tolerance will be entrenched. Our membership and engagement with SADC, the African Union and United Nations, and other countries in the Committee of Nations remain guided by the principles of mutual respect. In concluding, allow me to once again commend you, the people of our great motherland, Zimbabwe, the people of Onomtapa, for the successful watershed, peaceful, free, fair, transparent, and credible, harmonized general elections.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. And remember, for TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.